Matt Birney or Dan Illman with a recap and a reaction to the Pegasus World Cup draw. The field is set. The morning line has been set. We know where everyone's going to break from. Let's take a look at the field. Post position order 1 through 12. You see the big name, the 4 to 5 morning line favorite, the number 10 Gun Runner. I would venture a guess, Dan, that the connections of Gun Runner not thrilled with post number 10.
Who said these post position draws are anticlimactic? Gun Runner drawing post position 10, well, going 1.1 miles at Gulfstream Park with a short run to the first turn since 2013, post 7 and outer 7 for 129. It's not good when you lose substantial ground going into the first turn. And from a gambling standpoint, if Steve Asmussen is concerned, if Florent Giroux is concerned, even if they're not concerned, it's in the back of their mind, it's got to be in the back of any handicapper's mind that wants to take 4 to 5.
4 to 5 on the morning line. Now, obviously, I would imagine this has changed slightly, where if Gun Runner had a more favorable draw, he's probably in the 3 to 5 range.
I agree 100%. This is in the mind of handicappers. It's certainly in the mind of odds makers. And most importantly, it's going to be in the mind of jockeys, especially jockeys of the 9 Toast of New York, Frankie Dettori, and the horses to the inside of Gun Runner with enough positional speed. And we talked about it in some of these contender profiles. Gun Runner's got big speed. Florent Giroux's plan is to be stalking 3 wide off the likely speeds of Sharpest Tech and Collected. How much is he going to have to use his horse going into the first turn to get that coveted 3 wide tracking spot? I think some of these other jockeys to the inside are going to hustle their horses out of the gate, force Gun Runner to expend a lot of energy, 4 or 5 paths wide into the first turn, then grab that spot, and then hope to get a breather on the backstretch.
Let's talk about some of the other runners in here that probably drew a little bit more favorably. I think the big winner, you could say, is the number 2 West Coast. He's 8 to 1 on the morning line for Bob Baffert, breaking from post 2. You and I talked a little bit before we came in. Could easily envision an Arrowgate-like trip that he got in the Pegasus last year for West Coast.
He's got surprising speed. He's versatile. He can come from off the pace. He can win from close to the pace. He is not making the lead in here with Sharpest Tech and Collected breaking to his outside. But he is going to break. He is going to settle and save ground. And I think he's going to have Gun Runner to his outside at some point. Most importantly, he's going to save valuable ground. And I think the key point is these horses might start their run at the same point at about the 5/16 or 3 furlong pole, 3/8 pole. The key might be ground loss for Gun Runner.
Singing Bullet has drawn the inside. From a class standpoint, certainly not as good as some of the top contenders in here. From a tactical standpoint, it'll be interesting to see what they choose to do. I would imagine breaking from post number 4, Sharpest Tech, who's the second choice in the morning line at 6 to 1. The connections, this has to be about as good a scenario as you could have drawn up.
If he breaks, he goes. You look at the 3 horses to the inside. Singing Bullet, West Coast, Stellar Wind, all have positional speed. They are not burners like Sharpest Tech. The 1.1 distance, a huge question for Sharpest Tech. But at least from a post position standpoint, he shouldn't have to be used too hard to grab the lead and the rail.
If you're a fan of Collected, if you still believe there's something in the tank, the San Antonio, undoubtedly a disaster. Everybody talked about that. Mike Smith said it was a poor ride. Bob Baffert questioned it. Now you look at this and you say there's a real scenario where we sit just off of Sharpest Tech and Gun Runner is sitting off of us. In a way, that's a reverse of what you saw in the Breeders' Cup Classic. If you still believe there's something in Collected, do you view this as a positive or a negative?
I do view it as a positive because he is certain to be forward. He will get the same trip as he got in the Breeders' Cup Classic, only he won't be tracking Gun Runner, right, the horse of the year. He'll be tracking Sharpest Tech, a horse that may not want 1.1 miles. Now, obviously, off of Collected's last race, a lot of things are going to happen. He's going to have to show up with his A-plus game. Sharpest Tech is not going to have to get the 1.1 miles, and Gun Runner is going to have to encounter some obstacle getting that tracking position to the outside of Collected. But I think this is a really good trip for Collected. We'll see if he's in the form that propelled him to some of his big races in the summer.
We'll have all the nuts and bolts on Thursday when we go through and tape the race of the day, which is going to be the Pegasus World Cup. Without giving everything away, let's just look at Gun Runner and say, if you were going to pick him before, whether you don't need to say it right now or not, does it at least give you cause for pause? Do you think twice and consider picking against him knowing that he's breaking toward the outside?
I think if you thought if he ran his Breeders' Cup Classic like I did, he wasn't losing this race. He was a single, perhaps a stone-cold single with no backups from a ticket maker perspective. I think this post position is in the back of your mind, and all of a sudden you're thinking of a backup, if not an outright stab against.
If you think Gun Runner was the loser of this draw, is there one horse, we talked a little bit about West Coast, is there one winner of this draw?
I think Sharpest Carpesteca and West Coast were the winners in this draw. I think Collected is a winner in this draw. I think those are horses that can benefit from saving ground and hope that Gunrunner, again, is really compromised by horses like Toast of New York, maybe even War Story. He's got enough speed to at least make Giroux work on Gunrunner and make him expend a lot of energy going into that first turn.
Connections at Gunrunner, probably not thrilled breaking from post position number 10 Saturday afternoon in the Pegasus World Cup. He's 4-5 on the morning line. We'll find out if he can overcome the post position and go out a winner.